Your testosterone didn't just drop. ED is not always physical. If your sex drive is gone, it didn't just disappear, right? You trained it somewhere else. So the real question is, where did it go? Because your brain doesn't lose drive, it gives drive to whatever rewards it the most. And ED is often not a failure of masculinity. It's a reflection of what the brain has been repeatedly trained to respond to. This video is brought to you by my HarperCollins published book, Mind Over Explicit Matter. If you're ready to quit porn and reclaim your life mentally and physically, go over to drtrishleigh.com/book. So, how does your phone and screen time actually affect sexual function? When your brain gets flooded with fast, novel, often sexualized stimulation, it starts adapting to the environment. It feels good. It's easy. It's always available. But over time, something starts to happen beneath the surface. A gap begins forming. This gap is between what you've trained your brain to expect and what real life can actually provide. That's what I call the desensitization gap. And the longer the brain stays in high dopamine digital environments, the more it starts adapting to novelty, anticipation, intensity, and rapid reward. What once felt stimulating becomes normal. So the brain starts seeking more variety, more intensity, more dopamine, and eventually real intimacy with one person, one moment, real connection. Well, it starts struggling to compete with the speed and intensity of digital stimulation because your brain always adapts to the environment it spends the most time in. You can start noticing the gap in yourself when your drive for real sex feels lower. What used to arouse you feels kind of flat now. And when erections become inconsistent, especially with a real life partner. This is where we start seeing sexual arousal dysfunction, what I call SAD, namely ED. Well, it begins to creep in, and it doesn't stop there. As the brain starts demanding higher stimulation, other parts of your life become affected too. Your motivation drops, your movement becomes nil, sleep quality goes down, recovery drops, and your body adapts to the environment your nervous system creates. Low recovery, poor sleep, chronic overstimulation, low physical demand. Those are not conditions that support optimized testosterone production. I worked with a client who came to me for one reason and one reason only, ED. He was very clear that it was happening all the time, which honestly almost made it worse. He'd be with his wife and his mind would drift. He told me this: everything still works, just not when I'm with her. At the same time, his drive dropped. He was embarrassed and eventually stopped initiating altogether. Instead, he turned toward more frequent pornography use and scrolling because it was easier and frankly, it was just more stimulating. And that, my friend, is how the pattern builds. He wasn't just dealing with ED. His brain had been trained to respond more strongly to artificial stimulation than to real world intimacy. His reward system had adapted somewhere else. His brain was miswired. As the desensitization gap widens, the brain raises the threshold required for arousal. At a certain point, real life input no longer meets it. The response weakens. The connection fades. That's when ED and SAD start becoming more and more consistent. And when this pattern continues, the system doesn't just struggle. It starts to down-regulate. Sleep quality drops. Recovery, it goes away or becomes more difficult. Presence in the real moment, it can't be accessed. Physical drive drops. And testosterone often begins failing with it because testosterone is produced in response to regulation, recovery, challenge, movement, and healthy nervous system demand. When those inputs fall, then your output falls with it. The desensitization gap doesn't just lower your sex drive, it lowers the entire system responsible for creating vitality, responsiveness, motivation, and masculine drive. No regulation, no power, no drive. In one study, men with ED weren't drastically different in age, weight, or even testosterone levels, but they kept their phones on and near them significantly longer throughout the day. Not necessarily more extreme behavior and not necessarily obvious addiction, just more constant exposure. And that constant exposure matters because the brain adapts to repetition. The nervous system reshapes itself around the environment it experiences most consistently. So right now, for many men, the digital environment is shaping arousal. And it's shaping arousal more than real life is anymore. This is exactly what we see when we map the brains of men stuck in the desensitization gap. There's a pattern. The brain is running high. It's using too much sustained beta activity, that fast, stimulated, constantly engaged state. That's what I call strained brain. Always on, always seeking, always reacting. But what's missing is just as important. There's often very little alpha activity, the slower, regulated brain state associated with presence, calm, connection, and natural arousal. And over time, that imbalance creates what I call drained brain, because the system is constantly burning energy, not restoring it. So you didn't lose your sex drive. Your brain trained it somewhere else. And now real life struggles to compete with what your brain has repeatedly practiced expecting. Your brain does not respond to your intention. It responds to repetition. But of course, the good news, right? The same brain that created the desensitization gap, it can close it. That's the beauty of neuroplasticity. As the brain rewires, the gap starts narrowing. The nervous system becomes more regulated. Presence in the real moment improves. Your sleep comes back online. Your recovery is better. Testosterone often rises with it instead of falling and failing for you. Stress drops, pressure drops, and real connection starts feeling rewarding again instead of feeling underwhelming. You stop needing constant hyperstimulation just to feel engaged. And over time, natural arousal starts working the way it was naturally designed to again. And through neuroregulation with specific targeted protocols, neurofeedback protocols that I've developed, I can help you train the brain back into regulation. We can actually watch the strained brain calm down and the drained brain recover. We can see with our own eyes the desensitization gap close. And when that happens, men often don't just regain sexual function, they regain focus, presence, motivation, confidence, and drive. That same client that I told you about, the one who originally came to me dealing with sexual arousal dysfunction, SAD, and it ending up in full-blown ED, less than 6 months after brain mapping and neurofeedback, his life had transformed. He felt it and we saw it in the data. Now, it wasn't perfectly overnight. It wasn't some dramatic movie moment, but it was steady change and improvement. He told me, my job is going better than it has in a long time. My relationship with my wife feels good again, and I'm not even hooked on my phone anymore. He was sleeping better, feeling more energized during the day. He started initiating again without having to force it. And the inconsistency that used to throw him off with his wife started to fade. Nothing extreme changed on the surface, but underneath it, the system wasn't overloaded anymore, and the desensitization gap narrowed and closed. That way, his brain was able to become responsive to real life again. And what came back wasn't just performance, it was presence, confidence, connection, drive, and inner peace. Not because something was added, but because his brain was finally working the way it was designed to after years of not. So here's your brain hack for the day. For the next 7 days, shift your brain from instant reward into delayed reward. Set yourself up for tomorrow the night before. Plan your day before bed. Set a consistent sleep timer and stick to it. And most importantly, no screens in bed. Then add this: no screens 60 minutes before sleep. No high stimulation content at night, and move your body every single day. What you're doing is lowering the noise so your nervous system can recalibrate. You're training your brain to expect effort first, then reward, not the other way around. So pause this video and take a screenshot, and please comment brain hack if you're committing to this for the next 7 days. Let's go. Okay, so eventually your brain is regulated. You feel more present, more responsive, and especially more connected in the real world. You stop feeling controlled by overstimulation, inconsistency, distraction, and compulsive reward seeking in your screen. You start feeling like yourself again, my friend. As the desensitization gap closes, something bigger shifts too. You feel like the driver in the car of your life again, not controlled by ED, not pulled around by constant stimulation, not trapped in compulsive loops. You're directing your drive instead of losing it. So if you're dealing with ED or SAD, sexual arousal dysfunction of any kind, low testosterone, low sex drive, please don't ignore it. It usually only gets worse. Go over to Dr. Trish Leigh and Company, meet with me privately, and if you're inspired, get your brain mapped. Because once you see the pattern, you can change it. Okay, always remember to control your brain or it will control you. I'll see you next time.